I've had the Bambu Carbon X1 for about 4.5, 5 weeks now, and I've done a lot of printing. Over the last week, I was printing out the SpaceX launch tower and the actual rocket. And this one here, you know, with the movable things, and it just was a very, very interesting build. This took me around a week of about 6-hour days to print all of this on the Bambu Lab Carbon X1. And I will have to say that for the most part, everything turned out beautifully. The rocket itself is silver PET-G. The base is PET-G, and the launch stand over here is all done in PLA, using Sunlu PLA. I have not finished the actual hooks and everything that needs to go on the launch tower. I've printed them and they all turned out great, but I have not completed that assembly yet. I'm going to leave that for a while. And then these were also done in PET-G, and this is for the methane tanks and the liquid oxygen tanks that go there. And you're supposed to print 8 of these things. And they turned out pretty darn good, I would say. And I did these, like I said, with PET-G. Now, nothing's perfect. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect. There's a little wavery, you know, on the where the bamboo comes back around to the same point. That seam that they call it is a little bit iffy here and there, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty darn good print. So I'm happy with that. Did I have problems with the bamboo? Yes, I definitely did. And one of the problems was that I would have a lot of their poop would show up. Most of the poop went into the bucket, which is what it's supposed to do. But I had some of the poop go into the actual machine itself, and I had 2 or 3 pieces of their poop actually on the build plate, which I didn't particularly care for. And luckily that was okay. I could sweep that off as it was being built, so I had no problems. And like I said on one of the first videos, one of the pieces of poop actually jammed the Z-axis and prevented that from going up. So, you know, okay. And most of the time, all the builds went fairly well. However, every single time that I printed PET-G, it could never find the lighter or whatever it is that looks for it, could never find this particular strip, and would always fail on PET-G, always. And I don't know if that's a defect with the software that I'm running on the Bambu Lab X1, or something's wrong with my machine. I have not reported it to Bambu Lab yet, but it always fails, always, on PET-G. Now, if I use the other plate that I have, the PEI plate, 90% of the time it'll find this and have no problems. Every once in a while it will also fail, but on PET-G, 100% of the time. Okay, so let's do some measurements. The X is 3504, and it's supposed to be 35, so that's not too bad. The Y is, well, depends where you measure. So that's pretty good. It's supposed to be 30, and this next one is supposed to be 25, and we got 20, depends on where you measure. 2503. So, you know, there is a little bit of a edge here on each one of these interfaces. So you could be off a little bit, but for the most part, I think that's pretty accurate. Okay, so this is the poop bucket I made, and you can see the size of it. And this is all the poop after 1 month of printing. So that's what I've got for my poop. And you'll notice that every time that you change, well, it seems like every single time that you start your print, you're going to get poop coming out of it. So that's all. I can tolerate that. That's not that much if you really think about it. So that's it. Overall impressions, I really liked it. I think that if you're going to be doing multicolored prints, this is not the printer for you. If you're going to do a lot of good prints that you want with carbon fiber and you want to print fast, this is a pretty good printer. As far as the different colors are concerned, the main reason I say this is not a good printer is that there's a lot of room between the print head and the actual reel. So every time you're changing color, you have to unwind through that big path your filament. Then you have to load through this big path your filament. Now that's not to say that it doesn't work, because it does. I have never had that fail on me. However, the problems that I am having with that is it takes a long time to do it. And if you're doing multicolor on different layers, so in other words, you have black on one layer, and then you're going to go, green for 3 or 4 other layers, this will work fine for you. If you want to mix within a layer, this will not work very well for you. It is extremely slow doing that. So there's a plus and minus. So like this is a multi-layer, obviously, you've got 2 colors. And this printed fine, and then during the transition it had to unwind the green, of course, and then load the red, and then go ahead and start the process. But at the transition point, the seam was flawless and it worked really great. So it can print multiple colors and not a problem. What I use the AMS for, which is the multiple filament handler, is simply to not having to load up PETG, not having to load up a different color, not having to load up PLA, and it works really well. So I'm happy with that part of it. So overall, I would say if you're interested in printing fast, and definitely everything with PLA and everything works fine, go ahead with it. X1 Carbon is, I'm very happy with what this thing does for me. Would it be my ultimate printer? The answer is no. But for the price point, it's a little bit pricier than most other printers, but it does have the features that I needed and wanted in a printer, and that's what I got. So I'm happy with that part of the decision. If there's any other questions, go ahead. But I'm going to show you some of the things that I put together real fast, and I had hoped I had done that for you. So I tested, I don't know how many different types of filaments from a few different makers. I have never had a failure for it. And printing non-Bambu Labs filaments in here, the setup on it is fine. So I don't even have to worry about the spooler, which I did have here in my previous video. I really didn't even need that. As long as you have plastic reels, you can put a filament in there, and you tell the EMS exactly what filament it is, and what it just takes it. So I'm very happy with that part of it too. I think it's a really good system. I like the slicer. The slicer is pretty good. So that's where I am right now, and thank you for listening.